Hello and welcome back to the Balance Training and Coaching channel. My name is Kurt and it's good to connect with you, so to speak. This particular video is focusing on a particular tool that you can use, which I call the emotional curve. The emotional curve. Now, in particular, almost exclusively, I find that I reference this particular tool when we are talking about having difficult conversations or dealing with difficult people and or dealing with challenging work contexts. And therefore, again, I'm approached very often indeed actually, on this discipline, let alone this model, with the request to have something to help people prepare, to help people to come up with some kind of plan or strategy of approach, and or some kind of mechanism to help them just do as good a job as they can in terms of managing people respectfully, professionally, as well as effectively. And therefore, many years ago now, I think about 12 years ago roughly, I came up with this model as just such a mechanism that you can potentially use in your preparation work. Therefore, let's have a look at it in more detail. You just need a vertical axis and a horizontal axis. It's actually a very simple model to draw. And we're going to have emotion on the side, so emotion on the side. With upward pointing and downward pointing arrows. And we're going to have time at the bottom moving in this direction, moving forwards. And then we just need a standard bell curve. And then off we go. So this can be used in a number of ways. It can be used, as I said, in terms of you making sort of a broad strategic decision, i.e. coming up with a plan of approach overall to a conversation, and or it can help you to come up with some tactical decisions, so more detailed, more specific decisions about what to do or when to do it or where or how or with who, what to say, etc. So it can be used in both those senses. Therefore, let's begin with the emotion. And of course, as human beings, there's an incredible range of emotions that we experience, from negative to positive to somewhere in between. And in particular, when you're in the workplace, of course, the types of emotion that staff tend to find more challenging or less desirable are the afflictive emotions. You might call them the negative emotions. So anxiety, anger, confusion, sadness, feeling distraught, etc., etc. Now, of course, emotions can rise and fall, hence the upward pointing and downward pointing arrows. So, for example, I might come into a room and I seem okay, and then I start to get upset and my eyes water, maybe my face goes red, I stop looking at you and looking at the floor more, I say less, my volume goes down, and then I become really upset and I start crying, and so forth. And then after talking for 10 minutes, maybe I start to change and I feel a bit perkier, a bit happier, a bit lighter, and so on. So You know, the emotions, as I believe you know, can ebb and flow and fluctuate. Likewise with anger. I can start off fine, then I get really, really angry, then I go back to where I was at the beginning, and then maybe I become a bit apologetic and apologise for how I was 10 minutes ago. So that's what the bell curve represents. I come into the room, I seem fine, and as I said, my eyes start to water, maybe my face goes red, the volume of my voice goes down, and then I start to cry, and I get upset, and then maybe here maybe my shoulders are rolling, and I'm wailing with whatever grief or upset. Then over time it dissipates, and I return to my original starting state. Likewise with anger, not angry at all, mildly angry, moderately angry, majorly angry, extremely angry, incandescent with rage, shouting and physically threatening people and so forth. And then the emotion starts to dissipate. Now, here's a very common occurrence that you find happens in, for example, the workplace. And to be honest, much of the time, I understand it, or I feel I do, and I respect it. And for example, it's when staff, be they managers or not, team leaders or not, supervisors or not, most people I find in the workplace, most of the time, they mean well. And therefore, by that I mean they want to help someone. They genuinely do. And what can then therefore come with that is sometimes what happens is that the individual who's trying to manage the situation, be they a manager or not, can come in too early. So the person starts to get upset in terms of tears or sadness, or starts to get angry, and aggressive. And we come in too early. And more often than not, it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea. Again, I believe you know these examples I'm about to give you. Let's take anger. Yeah? Someone starts to get angry, defensive, aggressive, and a very common thing we say is what? Yeah, look, Kurt, calm down. Kurt, calm down, it's fine. And, as I'm sure you're aware, one of the quickest ways to make sure that someone doesn't calm down is to tell them to calm down. Likewise with tears and sadness, a very common thing is, hey, it's okay, don't cry, there's no need to get upset. Invariably people get worse, So more often than not, this is not a good idea. There are exceptions, of course. With the anger, if they start using expletives, swearing at you and other people, very rarely is that acceptable. That's a kind of behaviour that needs to be eradicated immediately. So, of course, as you know, there you would interject and say, look, I need to interrupt you, Kurt, for a moment. You need to stop swearing. Keep talking to me, tell me what happened, and I want to know how you feel about it, but you need to stop swearing.